one of those ways. Hear me?
Now they can.
Can you hear me now? You missed such an important, profound talk. Anyway, that I know still don't know. Oh, they can. Okay, thanks, Tanya. Oh. Okay, now I'll get serious. Do everything the right way. So take a moment to just kind of relax in your seat. Really feel your body here. Invite your mind to join your body here. Use your breath to sort of ground you. And really try to leave the past behind, whatever you were doing before now, and whatever you're planning for the future, otherwise known as then. So we can focus on where we're here right now. One of the things that can really help us in practicing a spiritual path is to set an intention before we do anything. So we can take this moment to set an intention to use this time well here today, based on whatever reason it is that you decide to show up here. And it's always helpful to training our mind towards thinking of others to include or combine this intention with the wish that it not only benefits yourself, but that it's going to ripple out to benefit others. And this helps remind us that everything is a dependent arising. We are interdependent. That what we do or say or think affects those around us. So doing something that benefits actions of body, speech, and mind necessarily will benefit others. So let's recite the four measurables. It's on page 34 of the text. Not that I'm on page 34, but get there. So try to bring to mind a group of people that you care about. It's easy for you to wish them well. And from that small group, keep trying to expand it outward. So to our loved ones, to the loved ones of our loved ones, to the loved ones of their loved ones, just keep expanding it out. And so what we're wishing for here is to cultivate the mind of love, passion, and joy, and equanimity. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now, page 98. A refuge. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, we did so well on the meditation part. Does anybody remember where we were last week when we started on the 7-point mind training? I can dream. Not a one. Oh, it sort of doesn't matter. I can start wherever I want. Have we done Don't Lie in Ambush? My favorite one. No. No, definitely not. Okay. We did do the measure of having trained a mind. I think we also did talk about the 3 general points, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. Okay, so maybe transform our attitude, but maintain natural behavior. We did do that.
Yes.
Don't speak of others' faults.
Yes.
None of us are guilty of that. Don't concern yourself with others. Don't conserve. Don't conserve. No, that's not just, it's not the concern. Thank you. Can't read. Don't concern ourselves with others' business.
I think we touched on that one with the faults, but yes.
Okay, so we'll start there. All right. Just so people can see it. So take a picture with your mind. There's a seat over here, Gladys, although you are in a comfortable chair. Yes. Okay. Now remember, this list is all on lamayeshi.com. You just type in 7-point mind training. You will see it. It's not difficult. The text that I use, I don't think is in print anymore. So I can, but so there you go. So this is part of the section on the commitments of mind training. So this is what we're trying to do if we're working on our minds. These are all, and it's this, the focus on in this section is the negative things we want to abandon. There are also things we want to cultivate, our good qualities, our generosity, our patience, our kindness, our wisdom. But these negative things, habits we have, interfere with that. And so we also want to try to recognize that and abandon these habits. Now, is it better, speaking to the folks at home, is it better if I leave this up or if I take it down so you can see people?
Leave it up, please.
Guys, I'm not talking to any of y'all. Sorry about that. No, we're not voting. People at home, does anybody have a voice?
Yes, leave it up, please. It's helpful to see.
Yes, I
So
agree.
leave it up?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, no, but I break things when I hit
Technology
buttons. I'm
climb on
not,
that.
yeah, it's like, okay. All right, isn't that nice? The people at home and the people here agree. So that's wonderful. How convenient. All right, so don't concern ourselves with others' business. What do you think that might indicate? I love Jessica.
We have a saying, mind your own business.
Yeah, we do. We have a saying, mind your own business. You think that's related?
I don't know.
It's like, this kind of speaks to idle talk. Like a lot of times we can gossip about what other people are doing.
What else do we do?
Give advice.
But criticize.
We criticize, we give advice,
We judge.
we judge.
We make a story when you could be completely incorrect.
Yep.
We're not present.
I'm sorry,
We're not present
we're not present
with, yes, we're.
with anything because we're just in our story about other people's business.
Forget about ourselves.
And we think we know what they're thinking, and why they're doing what they're doing.
And what could we be doing?
Projecting.
What could we be doing that would be better? Let me be specific.
Yes,
Minding our own business.
Yeah, and what does that mean?
working on our own mind.
So what do we have to do? We have to look at our mind, see what kind of, are we having thoughts that are of any use at all? Do they feed our negative habits? Do they help us, be mindful of others, be able to make sure we can benefit others? Does it help us to go, ooh, my mind's in an ugly place. Maybe I should work on that. So minding our own business doesn't mean not caring about others, doesn't mean being indifferent to their world. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that instead of making up stories about others' lives and what's going on in their life and what's going on in their mind, or how could they make a decision like that, whatever we're thinking, we work on our own stuff. And then when someone speaks to us, we listen to them. We don't go, oh, I'm wondering what she's going to say. She's not a nice person. And she's really kind of like not all that smart. And she's, blah, 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 and we're not listening. We're just waiting to prove our point. We're just looking for anything that supports our opinion of them. And so we're not listening. Which means we're also not experiencing our life except our inner stories. You're not actually interacting with the other person. You're spending your time in your head. I'm not sure when you die, that's going to be something you're really thrilled about. I mean, before you actually die, after you die, you don't care. But, before that, it's like, what do you value? Do you value the stories you make up in your head? If you do, maybe you should write a book. Make it useful. Share it with the world. No. So, okay, I'm going to see what His Holiness says in case I've gotten it all wrong. Nothing. I'm never sure I'm on the right. Okay. Yeah, he just is, he puts it together with don't speak of others' faults. And that's also, so that's the same thing as when we say don't mind, that's pointing to consciousness, our mental thing. So we want to not just watch what we say, or even listen to in the, like if somebody's doing nothing but trashing other people, you might want to go, oh, I have to go do something else. So, it's, but then we also want to watch what our minds do. So it's both our actions and our mind and our speech, of course. Okay. That sounds good? Yeah.
What does it mean, don't lie in ambush?
Oh, I'll get there. That's one of my favorite lines. But before we get there, we're going to talk about give up every hope of reward. That's the next one. I'm going in order.
Oh, yeah.
How irritating. Yeah.
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 Me too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I zero in. This is why it's trouble when I pick up the book because then I start reading the other. Oh, yeah, that's right. You notice the post-it note. Okay. Give up every hope of reward. Why? Does everybody get this sense of what give up every hope for reward? What is that? Give up every hope of reward.
It's your motivation.
It takes motivation. You don't do something for, an alternate. I really can't talk today. I must need water.
Ulterior motive. Is that true?
Ulterior motive. I need water. My tongue's not working. And that's so weird. It's also, we talk about this a lot. Well, somewhat, sometimes. We talk about how is it wrong to do something, even though you're doing it for the hope of a better rebirth, for a hope of someone liking you, or a hope of these things, So we really don't want to focus on that kind of stuff. But that's where we start. So we start with, I want to do good things. It will be better for me if I do good things. This will bring some happy results. It will give me resources, like we talked about last time. I think if you give generosity, if you give it with, with these kind of hopes for some sort of reward, you still get the benefit of the merit of resources. It's just not as strong as if you didn't have yourself in the picture at all. It had nothing to do with you. You're just trying to benefit others. So, but it's a process, so we start with, whatever mind we've got, and we try to do, good stuff, but we don't try to feed this desire of being rewarded. And the classic to me is the getting a gift, giving someone a gift and receiving a gift from them, opening it and going, wow, I spent too much money on their gift. That's like not a mind you want to practice. Yes, tell.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just.
That's what's terrible about Christmas is everybody trying to figure out what I have to get for this person so that it's the right thing and because what they're going to be giving me. And I don't do anything for Christmas. I'm just saying.
You avoid the whole thing altogether. So that's good. That's much easier.
But there's a lot of anxiety around it.
Yep. And there would be none if you didn't do that. If all you thought is, what would I like to give this person? What do I think this person might like? Huh?
So we're talking about motivation, right? And it's interesting, like at the beginning of the class, you always say about putting an intention. And if we do things in life and we always remember to put an intention on everything that we do, it triggers a question about that you're talking about right before you even start that. So it's like, why am I doing this? And if you see any selfish in there,
Right.
you can catch that before you just
And correct your
let go
motivation. We
forever.
call it correcting your motivation. And this is really a good habit to have. And this is what I do all the time is just go, where am I in this picture? You know, if you find the I, because it's there in this picture, then you can discern whether you're doing something in order to benefit you more than others, or you're doing something to try to manipulate situations to get what you want rather than it having anything to do with others. Or you might find that you're just whatever. I mean, all kinds of things that you're afraid and that, you know, da 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 da, trying to do something about that. It's not that every time you find an I, that's a big problem. It's just that if you don't look for it, you don't know what your motivation is. You know, and so this is a good way of being able to see what your habits are. Am I always trying to buy friends with presents? Am I always trying to, what's the word? Ingratiate, is that the word?
Yeah.
Myself with others, you know, for whatever purpose. Like, so they'll help me move. So that's a timely topic. So, you know, we want to, you know, be able to see that. And for me, the easiest thing is to keep asking me, okay, where am I in this picture? It's particularly important if I have some sort of gut reaction, like, I don't think I'm doing this for the right reason. So, but it's the eye's always there. I mean, this is our root problem, is that we misunderstand how we exist. We misunderstand what gives us happiness. We really think feeding the cravings of I is the way to happiness. And it's the opposite of that. So, but at the beginning, we may need some, oh, that's right. I want to have a good rebirth. So, you know, maybe we'll quit talking trash about people. As an example. Okay. Avoiding poisonous food. This is listening to, thinking about, meditating on the Dharma is for the purpose of becoming a Buddha. Contaminating this with a self-centered attitude is like murdering our chances of attaining liberation. Perhaps a bit strong. So,
Well, doesn't this
this
fall
is kind
us having to take care of our bodies in order so we can follow the Dharma? I mean, isn't it kind of that way? So we take care of ourselves?
I'm not sure that has to do with this point, but yes, we definitely have to take care of ourselves. Self-care is part of one of our kind of commitments to practicing the Dharma, because if we don't have self-care, we cannot take care of others. You know, until you're a very highly realized being, you need all the things ordinary beings need. You know, you need to make sure you have sleep and food, and, you know, it just doesn't have to be the food that's exactly the way you like. And it doesn't have to be the sleep on exactly the bed you want. And it doesn't have to be, you know, that kind of thing. I just got the list. I'm going on a retreat. I just got a list of what the conditions will be like. And I'm going, okay, let go of that idea. Let go of that idea. Bring your sheets. Okay, there goes the little suitcase for the big suitcase. You know, all that stuff, silly stuff. You know, we need to make a distinction between self-care and self-indulgence. And that's going to be different from day to day. So first, when you're sick, you need more self-care. Yeah.
This is not talking about literal food, is
No, it's not talking about food. It's about taking what nourishes us and turning it into poison. So taking the Dharma, practicing Dharma for reasons that are self-centered is kind of turning upside down. You know, this is why we emphasize over and over and over and over again, do everything for the benefit of others. Otherwise, we're feeding that self-centered attitude. We want a good rebirth so we can learn more about how to benefit others. Because I'm not going to be a one lifetime Buddha. I need a series of good rebirths. And it can be anything. It's like when we try to make offerings better than anybody else. When we grab, we like what we call merit hog. Where we never let anybody else volunteer for anything because we want the merit.
Talking about me?
I'm not to judge, but so you just that kind of thing. That's turning it into poison. It doesn't mean don't try to make any merit. It's just you don't keep everybody else from doing that. Okay. That one sort of makes sense.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, please.
I'm still blown away about give up hope of reward. I'm really blown away because especially what surrounds us, it's all about speaking for reward. Internet, the social media, everything is about reward.
That's our culture.
It is.
Yeah, and we have to question it. If the Buddha says, that's not the way to happiness. Rewarding ourselves always with things we want, all that does is give us a temporary blip into satisfaction. The way to happiness is to quit cherishing oneself and cherish others. That's according to the Buddha's teaching. That what really brings us happiness, longer lasting happiness, and the happiness of liberation is perfecting our ability to not be concerned about ourselves at all and be only concerned about caring for others. That doesn't mean you don't need to have self-care in the sense of keeping yourself healthy, taking care of yourself. But it's like someone who spends, 2 hours a day in the gym, only eats very, the healthiest of food, and spends probably, 4 or 5 hours a day really taking care of this body. Well, hate to tell you, you're going to die anyway. The body will fail you. So if you're not taking at least as long enough, the same number of hours working on your mind, you're not serving yourself well, according to the Buddha. Because the key thing is your mind, not how fit you keep the body. It's good to be healthy, good to do what you know to be healthy, but you have to really look at what you're sacrificing, if you spend so much time just taking care of this body, that's going to fail you no matter what. It's a given. You work on your mind, it's not going to fail you eventually because you'll keep practicing it. You'll train your mind, you'll get stronger with it, and it won't fail you. So at that time of death, you'll be ready. You set yourself up for a good, good rebirth. So, we all have to take, we need exercise, we need good food, we need, all those things. It's not that any of those things are crazy. It's that we really need to understand balance. So, and the fact that we mostly are imbalanced. Mostly we're looking for reward, instead of realizing, well, that'll last long. Oh, I wonder if I brought it. Oh, by the way, there's a chocolate bunny here that I didn't eat from an Easter basket someone gave me because I started keto the next day. And so, believe it or not, I didn't have time to finish all the chocolate.
You tried. But you tried?
I did try, but I was selective. I think Gladys brought me just delicious cookies from France, and it was a ridiculous day. And there's a Hershey's Kiss in here, and I actually looked it up to see how many carbs it has. It's like 5. I mean, I can only have 20 a day. 5 for one Hershey's Kiss, no way. I like other food too, so I can't find it. I'll probably melt my person, just be a whole thing. Anybody have an urge for milk chocolate buddy, please take it. Or a child that doesn't have tooth problems yet, or sugar problems, or whatever. You know, you just can't win these days. Okay. But yes, so don't give up any hope of reward. It's not don't give up hope. We want the world to get better. We want our minds to get better. We want, you know, all those things. What this is about is this idea of reward and punishment. Oh, I did something good today, so I'm going to have a Hershey's Kiss. You know, that's what. Now, if that's what it takes to encourage you to do something, I'm not going to say don't do it. It's just that, you know, we want to practice a mind that does it for the feeling we have when we do it. You know, the more you practice, especially just noticing what's going on in your mind, the more you'll notice that when you do kind things, generous things, help somebody else, as you know, and be patient with someone, that you're probably going to discover it feels good to do it. And that's the kind of happiness the Buddha is talking about. And then when you perfect all of it, all then you have is bliss. Because you no longer have any of those disturbing emotions arise. You're no longer worried about yourself at all. You know you'll be fine. Not that you think about it. So it's important to notice that. And that's why it's recommended that at the end of the day, you review your day. You know, you set an intention in the before things, and at the end of the day, you kind of review. Okay, you know, once again, I lost my patience, you know. So you try to clean that up, make a resolve to do better. And then you think, but today, you know, I interrupted my thoughts. It didn't say what I was thinking, which wasn't kind. You know, that kind of thing. So we just, really important to do that, you know, to remind ourselves we do a lot of stuff right. And we do a lot of stuff that's getting us in the direction we want to go. And some of them are really baby steps, you know, and those are just as important as the big steps, because guess where the big steps come from? The little steps. So, okay. That help. Okay. And it takes a long time to give up these things.
Tendron,
Yes, please.
isn't that a type of reward though?
What?
Wanting to feel good, doing good, and then getting.
Oh, that's just such a guilt trip. No, feeling good is the goal. Our whole thing is about, I want to be happy. What you want to discover is what feels good. And guess what? Inner feeling good is a lot better than pocketbook feeling good. You know? So if you go, you go open your pocketbook, oh, I deserve this. Spend your money. You know, you go, oh, I deserve this. You go get chocolate cream pie. You know, da da da. How long does that happiness last? For as long as either you're eating it, and probably not even the whole thing. For the purchase, oh my goodness, it can be as little as you forgot about it by the time you walked out of the store, and you're just on to the next thing, you know, or until, you know, like, I don't know, 6 weeks later. You know, so, whereas the memory of doing something for someone else and what that generates within pretty much feels good forever. You know, so it's a, so happiness is the goal. It's just the Buddha saying we're going about it all the wrong way. Don't maintain, oh, I really misplaced loyalty. Okay. This is again about feeding the mind that wants to benefit others and not feed the mind about self-cherishing and self-preservation and self whatever, you know. So that we were, you know, that we were trying to kind of give that up, that loyalty to me and mine. Does that mean we care about me and mine less? What does it really get at? Don't read the thing, it's not up there. Is the Buddha saying, you know, think, you know, regard yourself as less than.
You continue doing your actions, but you're not clinging for a result on everything.
Mm-mm. That's true. Not what.
Equanimity.
Yeah, sort of like equanimity. And what does equanimity mean? What does equanimity really mean? Really, really mean? Absolutely mean.
Don't discriminate.
Hmm.
Discriminate based on ignorance.
Oh, that's such a really heartfelt non-response. No.
Acknowledging everyone's the same and wanting to be happy.
Yes, that's part of it. And not wanting to suffer. And that we treat everybody the same way. Does that mean we become more indifferent to everybody?
Equally concerned.
Or no, we become equally concerned. It's not about developing equal indifference to everybody. That's not the point. So it's not about caring for ourselves less, except in quantity of thought. It's about loving everyone more. So we want to take that self-love we have and love for our children, our families, whatever we consider mine, and inflate our feelings for others the same. So it's that we want to love everyone like we love our own precious child. So it's not this idea that you're worth less than others, and that's why you need to self-cherish. I mean, other cherish. It's about happiness comes from cherishing others. Who gets to be happy? You do. You know, through benefiting others, the result is our happiness. It's a win-win for everybody involved. But so when we think about equanimity, we don't want to dampen our feelings towards people we care about. We want to elevate people that we don't care about to the same status. Whether we like them, don't like them, whether we approve of their actions or not approve of their actions. So that we can treat people based on the fact, and animals and the planet. Yes, right.
So it's that we exchange ourselves with others or look at them as if they're all.
Mhm.
That either of those accomplish.
So when we, okay, say that louder, please.
Either exchanging ourselves with others or looking at everybody as if
They've
they're
been our
mother.
mothers. Yep.
Either way, accomplishing.
They're the same, they're the same,
They're two different ways of doing
getting
thing.
to get to the same goal. Yeah. So when because we always leave out the word, it's actually equalizing and exchanging ourselves with others. So we equalize, and then we exchange our usual self-cherishing into other cherishing. We focus on others rather than ourselves, but we equalize. So it's not this less than, better than scenario. It's remembering interdependence, that our happiness depends on others. Everything depends on something else. You know, it's pervasive. Then this idea of if someone harms us, instead of thinking of ourselves first, I mean, get out of the way if you can. That's an implied thing that teachers think we know that already. So they don't really mention it. But yeah, of course, you don't stand there going, oh, please harm me. But if someone does harm you, instead of your first thought being, you know, how dare they, or I'm so hurt, or, you know, I've got to get even, that instead we turn it to having compassion for the negative karma this person's just created. Because they're going to suffer for it in the future. So, you know, we're just exchanging our usual attitude, being loyal to the self, and trying to remember we're dealing with another person here and their consequences to the actions they just had for them. We've just exhausted a little bit of negative karma. They've just created some. So these are not easy habits to develop. And this is why at the beginning of all this talk of the 7-point mind training, we have to start where we are and expand. We don't look at what perfecting it is and try to be there tomorrow. We'll burn out, give up, da, da, da. And that's not realistic. And it's not necessary. Habits don't start with one action. Habits start with repeated action. You know. Have I gone way over time, or is that clock right? All of a sudden I had a panic moment.
Because
20 to 12.
Yeah. I'm cramming a lot in a short period of time. Y'all need to interrupt more. Okay. So does that kind of make sense?
It's interesting it sounds like such a, well, and it is such a big thing of thinking of others as self regarding the same, but breaking it down, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to articulate this well. Breaking it down, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't sound like it means that it's so overwhelming. Like I've got to have all these people that I care about, just like I care about all my family members. That even if it's just breaking it down to the point of they have as much of a right to happiness, or as much, you know, instead of like, I don't have to be in personally make all these people.
This is an important point. We don't have to like everybody. That has nothing to do with it. Because what is liking or disliking based on?
They do for me, for my
Your own
relationship.
view.
It's just our perspective. People we don't like, other people like. It doesn't have any relevance. It only has relevance in who we ask to go to dinner with. You know, it's not, that's where it's important in terms of our daily life. Yeah.
The liking and not liking will be like a fruit of the reward that we're looking for when we interact with other people.
Maybe. Yeah. But yes, and we will discover we like a lot more people than we think we will if we hold them in a different place in our hearts. This is about, like Rebecca was saying, about this idea of everybody has the right to be happy. And what the way they translate it in Buddhism a lot is just this idea that everybody wants to be happy. That's enough. They don't need to justify that. They don't need to deserve it. You know, Buddhism isn't based on this idea of reward and punishment. It's just, of course, it's wisdom to want happiness and to avoid suffering. You know, the way we're going about it is guaranteeing failure. You know, so that's what the Buddha is trying to get us to understand. So when we change our attitude to start understanding that just, and you can start with thinking, what would it be like for you if every sentient being was happy?
Great.
It'd be great. Oh, gee, I'd lose. No, it'd be great. You know, if every sentient being was free from suffering. Oh, what a drag. Oh.
If everyone is, I am too.
Yes, you are, because you're included in everyone, in case you forgot. Yeah, exactly. So it isn't that we don't want to have that scarcity mind that thinks there's not enough to go around. Spiritual paths aren't about scarcity. They're about abundance. Because our mind, our hearts have no limit. Most of the limits we put on our hearts are the way we constrict and build a fortress around our hearts, thinking it's going to protect us. I don't know about you, it has never actually worked for me. I get hurt regardless of whether I built a fortress. You know? So it's about understanding that the limits of our heart are self-enforced. They're not based on what is true about your heart. Heart mind is the same word in Buddhism. Heart and mind. Those are two words. Sometimes I'm not very clear.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, good. So also, to expect yourself to embrace everyone anytime soon is also not realistic. But if we don't practice the words, we'll never get there. If we're not trying to think in those terms, we'll never get there. It also helps us to start to see things from a different angle. You know, I'm sure all of y'all have read stories, heartbreaking stories of how someone ends up in jail after having done a terrible thing, and they know they did a terrible thing and they, have tremendous regret about it and blah, blah, blah. And you can kind of find some aspect of this person that you think has worth. Their action had no worth, but, you can see their humanity. And isn't that, and to me, that's just an intelligent way to feel. That you can feel their humanity. And it's what we all hope for when we make a mistake. That people will see our humanity and, we're not perfect, we're not Buddhists, we're not anything, so please accept us as we are. Yeah. Everybody see, did the older people see? What's the dead man walking at the movie?
Meryl Streep. Was it Meryl Streep?
No, it was Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
So, boy, talk about someone really trying to practice their path. The nun trying to really love this person in prison, even and knowing exactly what this person did. And really helping him till the end. It's like, whoa, I'm not sure I can do that. So it's, but it's kind of a good story to watch, and it's a true story. Okay, so we're getting to don't make malicious banter, followed by do not lie in ambush. Yay.
What's that?
Okay, so don't make malicious banter. This is, we're all kind of familiar with this, aren't we? How sad for us. Someone describe malicious banter to me.
Let's gossip. I mean, talking politics.
Fox
Maybe.
News and MSNBC. Malicious banter.
Like we don't do it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's an encapsulation.
No, but malicious banter has a particular flavor, doesn't it? Not just gossip.
Spike.
So it's mean.
It's mean and it wants to do harm. You know, like when you spread a rumor at work,
Yeah.
you know, or if you remember your early days, a rumor at school. Well, these days, social media, you know, malicious banter is about the kind that really is motivated by wanting to hurt someone. We want to try to avoid that because all we're doing is creating the cause for someone to make malicious banter about us. So it's not going to achieve what you hope. It might in the moment. We can really hurt people that way. Is it worth the result?
What about like teasing?
Teasing's tricky.
It is.
It's really tricky. So you have to kind of know the person well to know whether teasing them will end up hurting their feelings. Because teasing tends to have an element of truth to it. That's why we call it teasing, because it's the definition of teasing. But, so we have to be careful about who we tease and what our motivation is.
Like the people who like tease me in my life, like I don't really mind it, but I do feel like less comfortable like when I'm in the same room. So
Okay, yeah. So that gives you a clue about teasing. How we feel when we're teased is a clue about how others probably feel when they're teased. So you really have to be careful. Even siblings hurt each other through teasing.
Malicious intent.
I'm sorry?
It's malicious.
It can be malicious, and often is.
Malicious prosecution.
Malicious prosecution. Yes, that's not a good thing either.
Well, if you've been sued without merit,
Mhm.
and you turn around and you sue them for malicious prosecution, should you just not? Should you just let it go?
I can't give you an opinion on that because it depends. It depends. But but the fact that there are laws about this show you that as a society, we think it's valid to not have malicious actions because you can actually even legally have a course of action. So it's really tricky. Like Sangha, monks and nuns are supposed to protect their reputation. And so if somebody spreads a rumor or something that's not true, we are supposed to address it so that somebody who to correct it, so that perhaps other people who hear it, or maybe they won't hear it because you've corrected it, because you don't want, why would we want to protect the reputation of Sangha?
You represent the Dharma.
Because we represent the Dharma. We don't want someone to turn away from the Dharma because of an untrue rumor. So we have to step in. We don't sue people. That's not recommended. Monks and nuns are not supposed to go to court. So it's but it's tricky, isn't it? All this stuff. So it depends. But when you're doing something not for the sake of getting even, not for the sake of you're wrong and I'm right, not all those things, but if you're doing it to protect something important to you and maybe others, you know, then you might want to do something, you know, but it really depends. You have to look carefully at your own mind to see if you're not doing something malicious right back. You know, it's always good to wait till you no longer feel angry. And that's hard. But, you know, when we make decisions when we're angry, we're making decisions based on an unreliable mind. An angry mind is distorted.
I think the same thing would be defamation.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, like
usually
suing someone for defamation.
if they've talked maliciously about you,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the recourse.
Mhm.
But I do think that at least the situation that I've encountered after time, what's it matter?
Yeah, it may matter to head of state. It may matter to, you know, celebrities. I don't know. But, you know, I mean, it's like in general, for most of us, it isn't going to damage our livelihood. It's just a pain. So, you know, but we need to have our own inner wisdom about ourselves. We don't have to base our self-worth on how people are talking about us. We need inner wisdom about ourselves. So we listen to other people's criticism of us so we can check up. Maybe that's true. Yeah.
I think right now in the atmosphere politically, some of us believe that there are things that need to be protected.
Of course.
that we need to
This is a
stand up.
government. That's not a me, you. That's us. Who makes up government and society? Us. We have a say so. You know, but we want to do it out of love for people, not out of you're a jerk and I don't agree with you. You know, it's about our love for what, you know, we want society to benefit from our way we run things, you know, whatever. So, you know, we make up that society. We need to put our voice out there. You know, but when we do it out of anger and hatred and disbelief and whatever, you know, we wake up in the mood that day, you know, that's not an effective strategy. That's just pouring more gunk on everything. You know, so we want to do it wisely out of love, because you want to be there for the long haul, not just, you know, oh, if I can't fix it by next week, I'm giving up. You know, and if you do anything for the long haul, anger can't be the fuel. It'll kill you. You know, you want to do it out of sense of, you know, that you think this will be of benefit to people, even the people you disagree with. You know, so none of this is easy, but it's exactly what we need to be able to do. We're interdependent. We depend on each other. We need to be able to work together. And so we need to be able to hear everyone's concerns. You know, we don't have to agree. We can just, but I mean, we want to do things from the perspective of, I really think this will benefit us as a society. You know. Okay, don't lie in ambush. Got a guess?
Next line.
Lie behind people's back, or
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't even listen. That was pitiful. I don't know what you said.
yeah, lying about people behind their backs.
That could be a form of, it's really, actually, that's more malicious banter, you know, or lying. We don't want to lie either. So, yes.
With these, something like, the next time you do something, what I'm gonna do. you know, this is how I'm gonna respond.
So you kind of tit for tat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of it. But it's also flying go ahead, Sarah.
Well, like having an expectation that this person is gonna act a certain way, so I'm ready to attack.
Okay, that could be an interpretation.
Or like, when you're having a conversation with someone, you're just waiting to pounce, like you're listening, you're not listening to what they're saying, you're just listening for that trigger that you can
And what does that take? That takes advanced thinking.
plan it.
What about collecting a whole bunch of things
This is my personal.
and then?
Oh,
try-
yes.
and then
That-
try
Or
to-
that, dropping them like bombs at exactly the right
We-
time.
Romantic relationships often have this in them, where people just kind of put something someone did, their partner did in their little pocket. And then the next time you have an argument, you pull it out.
The difference is women can wait 20 years or more.
Equanimity, Roy. I bet you that's not true. I know women can do it, but I bet you men can do it too. We have a president that's doing that right now.
He's talking about percentage.
Percentage. Oh, well, you know, let's take sides. I will say, I know I do it. No doubt there, but I'm one female. I can't speak for everybody. But it's an interesting, you know, habit to use with someone you love. What do we think is gonna, you know, how's that gonna help us? It's like, really? That's what you want to do?
I
So,
think that part of it is unresolved, maybe pain or hurt, like you're hurt.
this
by-
is why the Buddha says we chase suffering.
Yeah.
We don't understand happiness.
Yeah.
We really think that hurting someone else is going to give us an opportunity to be happy in the future.
Right.
They've hurt us. So if we can just keep the score even, we'll be happy at the end of it all. No, wrong. It's not true. Getting even does not make you feel better. Probably, yeah.
Not even a minute after.
What's interesting is you have to ask yourself, do I want this relationship or do I want to hurt it? Do I want this person in my life or do I not want this person in my life? Because you keep acting that way, you will not have that person in your life if they're smart. Yep.
So now I understand. Because I was thinking about lie, like true lie.
Right.
In this lie.
Ambushes, hiding in the bushes going.
It reminded me of the car plate. Don't threaten me.
Mhm.
Don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me. I'm not doing anything to you as long as you don't cross that line.
Mhm. And I'm ready. You can see that by the gun that's hanging on their flat.
There's something under the seat. Don't make you use it. Make you use it.
Don't make me use it. So anyway, but I mean, all fun aside, you know, we all do this. You know, we just sort of, and it just pops out. We don't realize we've been storing it. It's not like when someone says something to you, except when maybe you're in high school, you don't actually, you know, go, I'm gonna hold on to this to use it later, you know, unless you're already at the stage of hating your partner. But it's it's this habit of thinking that the way to defend ourselves is to even the score, you know, and it's not a good habit. What else does it do if you wait in ambush? What are you having to remember?
They did.
You have to, yeah. So what does that do? You're sort of feeding this.
Dwelling on negative.
Yep.
You're holding on to the hot coal.
Yeah, you're holding on to the hot coal. So you're feeding that just to, you know, that rationalization like, oh, I have the right to be angry. Like, yeah, fine. If you like to suffer, feel free, you know. So, you know, we really want to see that these kind of habits, that's the trouble with resentment. Resentment is holding us onto something that we didn't like and feeding it. And what does resentment imply?
You are
Yeah.
wrong and I'm right.
it implies this, yeah, it implies this kind of thing like, I didn't deserve that.
Yeah, you wrong.
Yeah, you wronged me and I don't deserve to be hurt because I don't wrong anybody else. And I never say anything mean to anybody else. And I'm never harming anybody else.
Better than.
Yeah, well, we're just, it's kind of ridiculous.
Isn't that a victim mentality? That we want to feel the victim?
It can be, but it could also not be. It's just this sense of, whenever anything bad happens to us, it deserves. It's just the sort of like, this is this distorted way of elevating things we're attached to a, to having good qualities they don't really have, to an excessive view. We exaggerate our own goodness, in that moment. Like, excuse me, I'm not like that. So this is another reason why we practice at the reviewing our day at the end of it. First of all, to get on top of all the things we keep doing that harm others, and remind ourselves maybe we don't want to do that, and have some reasons. And then we have to generate true regret for having done that to someone else, because we know how it feels when it's done to us. But that also helps us cut the chain of resentment that could start. Like if you retaliate, someone says something not nice to you, and so you just say something not nice to them back. If at least you ended that night when you're reviewing your day and going, oh, that's not how I want these things to go, you're cutting that mind stream that could lead to resentment, where you're still stuck in justifying yourself, rationalizing. I don't know if any of y'all are good at it. I was expert. So we have to have a realistic sense of ourselves. So this practice at the end of the day helps us, both with what we're not doing so well, but also we don't forget the rejoicing part about all the things we did do well. Because we're both. We have good qualities, we have not so good qualities. I mean, it's just, we want to practice the good stuff more than the negative stuff. And we want to start to understand there's a good reason for it. We will feel better. So if it's like, it is worth it to take care of our minds. That's the best thing to take. That's the best self-care there is. Don't strike at the heart. This is a nuance on the lion ambush. So have you ever said something to someone that you knew was a really vulnerable part of them, and you nail it? Now, it doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's interdependence, independent arising. You may have been really hurt too. Your button's been pushed, but when you really think about that, allow yourself to take on how cruel that is, then it's, then you can work with trying not to do that again. Because that's just like, people that are old friends, our partnerships, all these we know people, we get to know their lives and what they worry about. We know a lot about their heart. And so we are the best people to strike at the heart. We know too much, and so it's like, we have a lot. So for someone to trust us and for us to build trust, we want to protect those things. For someone else, it's just like, we don't want to be the one who reminds them of some, regret they have, or even some loss they have, and combine it with the regret they have. Those are really good. So, this is, I think this is one of the problems with our social media era, You know, people are becoming less and less protective of people's privacy, you know. And so they can just put up people's wounds all over the place. That just makes our world harder to live in. So the least we can do is not read those things and not practice the behavior on our own. So sometimes this takes a little more, it may take us a while to realize we did that, you know? So sometimes we know in the moment. We can just see it that we have just shattered them in that moment. And that's the moment to regret right away. You know, and own it. You know, I'm sorry. I just attacked you in an unforgivable way. I'm sorry.
Hug time.
Hmm?
Hug time.
Hug time, maybe. Hug time if they're willing. Yeah. But it's just, it's, you know, so we want to notice when the people around us show those expressions in their face where it appears we have shattered them in some way. You can see that people just have this soft, sad, whoa face. And if you've never seen it, yay.
I see that face, my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's disappointed.
Just
But
like,
there's a difference. Yeah. But there's a difference between us doing it to someone and their own thoughts doing it to them. You know, and because we can't change what they're thinking. We can only change what we're doing or saying or how we're saying it. That's really important. Tone. So, but we can't change if someone's just disappointed in their lives, you know. So, but we can try to correct our actions. If we purposely say something to, or maybe we don't know, we discover that we've said something like, "Ooh, that was a tough point." You know, we can acknowledge, "Oh, you look, you know, did I just say something that really hurt you?" So these are all challenging.
Yeah, no, I've lost friends that way.
Admitting it or saying it.
Just saying it. I mean,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
say the wrong thing and you can't take it back.
Yeah. And this is where, you know how it said, well, you may not know. If you don't know. One of the ways we talk a lot about how if we do something wrong, if we have genuine regret, we resolve to not do it, we can kind of purify it, so to speak. Well, we can also lose our merit through anger. And that's a good example of it. You know, the fact that we can say one thing to someone we've had a long-term relationship with, and that's it, shows you the power of, you know, painful speech, painful thoughts, you know, this kind of thing. You know, you know, so to me, that's a really good way. If you can't understand how could possibly anger destroy your merit, well, that's one way. So all those years of trust and companionship and camaraderie just gone. So. Yes.
One thing that particularly bugs me is sarcasm. And, you know, and people will put it together. Oh, I just have a sarcastic sense of humor. And those are just, it's totally contradictory.
I don't know if you grew up in a house that it was all pretty funny. A bad habit, sarcasm, because that's like teasing. It's when you don't realize that actually you're being mean. You're implying someone doesn't get it or something. You know, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's really smart. You know.
Well, I think there's a saying that there's a truth to every joke.
Yeah.
You know, so you might say it in jest, but deep down there's a little bit of truth to it, so it hurts.
Yeah, and that's why teasing's dangerous.
Yeah.
And sarcasm too, because sarcasm really is like, you're not very bright if you didn't catch on to this. you know, that gives you the condition to say something sarcastic. You know, that's where sarcasm based. You know, I was raised in that kind of household, you know, so, you know, and it's also a way, an opportunity for people to kind of like, well, I'm just quick with it. Catch up. Slap all their faces. You know, are you getting me?
What about a compliment wrapped in sarcasm?
Yes, that happens too. Backhanded, you know.
I have a friend of mine who is a genius and probably the world's greatest genius, and I give him a lot of sarcasm about those details and compliment him and et cetera, et cetera.
And try to bring him down a notch.
He's 6'8".
Well, that'd be hard to do. You're working hard at trying to figure out a way to kind of, you know, get on the same. But yeah, I mean, it's that's why they call it a backhanded compliment. Why? Because it's a slap in the face. I mean, this is not rocket science, you know. So we need to listen to those kinds of, what would you call it, observations about certain things. The fact that we call it a backhanded compliment, that means we're hurting someone, you know. You know, and often it's not like the person has a malicious motivation. If they can be nervous and trying to break the tension with humor in a very unskillful way. That's you know, that's the trouble. But so this is again that thing about, we need to be careful about attributing motive to someone else because we don't know what's in their mind at the time. You know, they may have been maybe using an unskillful habit they have, you know, in an attempt to make something better, and they're just wrong. But they're not being malicious. Other times they're being malicious. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, so it's just, but the thing of it is, we can only judge actions and words. We really don't know what's in people's minds. But we can speak up going, I don't appreciate being talked to that in that way, you know.
There's a gentleman that I follow, his name's Jefferson Fisher. He's expert at communication. He says that when you receive something like that, you should say, I'm sorry, did you mean to upset me? Did you mean to hurt me?
Yeah.
And that gives them a chance to either explain or you're kind of calling them out, you know, and it's a way to stand up for yourself in a certain way.
Right. And it's also an opportunity to let someone know you've been hurt by it. You know, and you can just be direct. You know, maybe not in a business setting. You know, but it's, you know, so these things are, this is just a list of things to notice. To kind of, oh, I'm doing that. Right this moment, I'm, you know, I've just pulled out something out of my pocket, you know, to just kind of go, maybe I want to put it back in my pocket and later throw it away, you know? So it's just, because it is sort of startling. I mean, I told you, this is the first Tibetan Buddhist book I read and carried with me everywhere ever since, always, you know? Because I needed some big changing, you know. I was not a nice partner. And I really needed to change. And when I read this book, I went, oh, I do all of these things. Oh, this is bad. But it also made me understand how harmful it is, you know. So it really changed my life. So it's not, it's an opportunity when we see something in ourselves and we recognize that we're saying something or doing something or thinking something. I mean, it's not a good trend. You know, if we don't see it, we can't change it. So it's just an opportunity to go, oh, I do that. Okay, I'm going to work on that. It's not an opportunity to go, well, what a terrible being I am. We don't want to pack our suitcase with guilt. There's no point. We want to change. And we can. So, you know, and it's nice to know you can. And all you have to do is look at your own life, your own history. You find all sorts of ways in which you've changed. From little ways to big ways, you know. So, all right. Don't place the load of a horse on a pony. I think the old translation said they used two animals. I want, you know, like don't put the load of an ox on a something or other that I'd never heard of. Yeah, maybe it was a yeah. You know, but this is, you know, just recognition that passing the hard work over to someone who's not ready to be able to do it, especially if it's your responsibility. When we see things like this in army movies all the time, and you know, all these little things, you know, comedy soldier movies, comedy things where, you know, people are always Tom Sawyer, you know, was good at it. You know, so it's just this recognition when we try to get out of something by giving it to someone, it's going to be even harder for, you know. So anyway,
What does this have to do with mind training?
it's taking responsibility for yourself. So if you have a task to do, you don't give it to someone else. And in particular, you don't give it to someone who can't handle it.
Sometimes you might think that you're doing the right thing by pointing something out, but that person doesn't even maybe know who he or she is. And you're wasted completely. It's backfires and it ruin, you can't win, you know.
Well, reminds me of beginning Buddha's sharing what they've learned in the Dharma to everyone they know, giving advice to everyone they know. Oh, I learned this new thing. This would really help you. You know, at the end of a long retreat, one of the students said to the person sitting next to her, "Oh, you were my best source of patience on this retreat."
Oh my God.
That's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, it's a backhanded compliment. It's also boasting about something about you. There's absolutely no need to say it at all, but this is what we do. So, but I mean, the point is that that's another way, like you've given an unasked for advice. You've implied you know them well enough to tell them what spiritual path they need to use or tool. You need this tool. And if they're not ready to hear it, if they're not interested in hearing, you may turn them away from the Dharma for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You know?
The mind your own business.
It's the mind your own business stuff. And in this case, when you don't want to put the load of a horse on a pony, you're asking someone else mind your business. You're trying to give them something that's yours, you know. So it's, you know, again, all of these things everything depends on a lot of things. Our mind being one of the most important ones, our motivation, our mindfulness of others. So we know, you know, so we're mindful to what their needs are, to what their abilities are, to, you know, to what might hurt them, what might not hurt them, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like these are just, well, they sort of are just never do these if you can. I take that back. So anyway, we'll stop there. So I start at the top of a page next. Maybe I'll even mark it. I won't remember what color I'm supposed to. Maybe I'll bookmark. Can you bookmark a Word document? No. Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Did you mention the name of the book?
Oh, it's Awakening. Yeah, weeks ago. Awakening the Mind, Lightening the Heart. It's by His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And I don't think it's in print anymore.
Awakening the mind.
Awakening the Mind, Lightening the Heart. So,
Not in print, it may be available as an ebook.
no, I don't think it is. I don't think they ever went that far. Oh, I'm sure they're used copies in the world. So,
I found a used copy of this in Netherlands.
yes. Oh, yes. I get books from all over the world. Although now I just get ebooks because I can't carry them all. So, yeah, it's funny. But, yeah. But also, like I said, you can look at lamayeshi.com, see the text, the root text. So whatever. If you look at some other website, like Alex Berzin has a website called Studying Buddhism, the jargon's completely different. So don't get confused or be prepared to be confused, or however you want to look at it. So, so at the beginning, one of the earlier points which now I can't see where it is, but it's basically, there are two things. Why can't I ever find something? Okay, so we start activities with intentions. We end activities with dedications. So we're at the end of this teaching. So now we want to, this is sort of what we could do at night before we go to sleep. We remember all the good stuff. So like we can rejoice. So we rejoice in our efforts this morning, showing up, not snoring, whatever. They're trying to listen, try to consider different perspectives, that kind of thing, and we rejoice in that. And then we rejoice that other people were here. We weren't by ourselves, so other people are doing it too. That's great. Yay. And then at the same time, there are all sorts of beings all over the place that are helping others. They're benefiting others in some way, and we go, yay, that's great. Because this is the manifestation of everybody's Buddha nature, Buddha potential. Our good qualities are the foundation for becoming a Buddha. So we can be happy about all the good things that are happening at the same time we were here. And then we can just add everything that has ever been done that's been good for people, and then we can also rejoice in everything that we can be 100% certain of will happen in the future. Positive actions will happen later. 100% guaranteed. So, and that's wonderful. Yay. And then we dedicate. So we don't, all those positive actions result in positive things, effects, in the future. And so we want to be generous with them and give them away. So that's the purpose of our dedication. It also, well, whatever. Okay. So what page is it on? 246. This happens to be from one of His Holiness's favorite dedications. Okay. So rejoice. That positive moment. Yay. This is really good news. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, atone an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding their post. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments, whatever diseases there are in the world. May they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as faith remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then page 244, the long life prayer of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then page 234 for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Brahmakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozan father and son, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teaching through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed in peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the tree jewel and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam glory for fortunate disciples. So